Welcome everyone. Thanks for making time to join us this afternoon. We will start shortly. Before we do, I'd like to mention that we'll be recording this session, so you know, and a recording will be made available on the SimaPro Help Center, hopefully the following day, tomorrow or something. And you can reach the SimaPro Help Center by going to support.simapro.com. So I'd just like to point out that you can send us any questions you have throughout this session via the chat box, and we will try to address them immediately or at the Q&A portion at the end. So thanks again for joining. I'm Ruba, and I'm right there in the middle. And I've been with PRé for over 5 years as part of the marketing team. I'm the senior customer service specialist, and yeah, that basically means that I try to help users get the most out of our tools. Joining me is Paula Bernstein, who leads our database team. And hi, Paula. And Paula's areas of expertise include environmental product performance, LCA databases, and supply chain sustainability measurement. She has also been involved in LCA and sustainability metrics implementation projects for many industries, such as apparel, food, building, and construction. And finally, we are really delighted to have Emilia join us, Emilia Moreno Ruiz, and she's from, she will present the Ecoinvent part of the session. For those of you who are not very familiar with Ecoinvent, it is considered to be the most comprehensive and transparent lifecycle inventory database out there. And Emilia is Deputy Director at Ecoinvent, where she's responsible for a wide range of activities from provision of data entry to data quality. So thanks again for joining us, Emilia.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
So a little bit about what you can expect in the next hour. Emilia will walk us through the highlights of Ecoinvent 3.4, and that includes what's new and what's updated, and a brief explanation of activity replacements, how things change from one release to another. And this is all documented in the Ecoinvent correspondence files. And she will also give a guided tour to some Ecoinvent functionalities from their website, for example, the EcoQuery. And after that, we will hand it over to Paula, who will delve into the SimaPro 8.5 release. So capturing what's new from a software point of view. But this release was more focused on data. So the major part will be explaining what's new in the data libraries, the implementation of Ecoinvent 3.4. And part of that session Paula will give a demo and show you how to deal with the obsolete processes, which is something we get a lot of questions on from users. And we hope to have enough time for Q&A. So I hope it will be an interesting session for you. And before we move on, I just was curious on how many of you have already updated to SimaPro 8.5 and are already using Ecoinvent 3.4. So there's a little hand icon, so you can raise your hand if you've already updated. Okay, so the number keeps creeping up. That's a good sign. So for those of you who have not yet updated, maybe this will entice you to do so soon. And before I switch things over to Emilia, I'd like to briefly introduce PRé as well. So to those of you who don't know us, we try to put the metrics behind sustainability. We use our industry knowledge to help clients with sustainability metrics, and we have been doing so for over 25 years. And we focus on 3 main consulting areas, and today we'll specifically be talking about the delivery of LCA databases in SimaPro. And yeah, SimaPro is widely used throughout the world. We have around 3,000 users at the moment, with 22 partners representing us worldwide, an active user community, and available in more than 80 countries. So that was it for the introduction, and I'll pass it on now to Emilia.
Thank you, Ruba. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I will be, oops, sorry for that. As Ruba mentioned, I will be presenting to you the new contents on Ecoinvent, the contents that we have released with the version 3.4 that was released to the public on the 4th of October 2017, and it's being now implemented in SimaPro. And there will be a second part in my talk, which will be, as we called it, a guided tour to Ecoinvent functionalities in the webpage of Ecoinvent. So that includes, sorry, the EcoQuery, which is the access to the Ecoinvent database through the Ecoinvent webpage. So let's start with the first part of this webinar. On my part of the webinar, which is related to the contents of version 3.4 in terms of data. Which were the sectors that were updated for the version 3.4? They are listed here. They were mainly natural gas sector, electricity, chemical production, and plastics recycling. Let's zoom in a little bit in each sector to see what has been updated and improved with the version 3.4. So in the natural gas sector, with the version 3.4, we deliver to our users an updated natural gas value chain in Europe. That means that we have updated a total of 130 datasets, and those datasets concerned extraction activities, import and transport of natural gas within and to Europe. The data has been updated to the most recent situation in terms of volumes traded, countries of origin of the gas per consuming country, also losses to use more modern conditions in the modeling of the losses. And we have introduced quite a lot of new import activities that allow us now to better reflect the interactions between consumers and producers, so to better link those two countries through these imports. There's another sector which has been improved with the release of version 3.4, and this is the electricity sector. It has been improved at two levels. The first level, which I would describe here, is concerns the market mixes. All national market mixes for electricity in all three system models have been improved to reflect the latest available data. And I will just detail a little bit what that means in the different system models. In the attributional system models, that means that now we cover 100% of global electricity generation with country-specific market data. We have now available market compositions up to date using 2014 data, 442 countries, which cover all of International Energy Agency statistics. In the case of consequential, we have not only updated to most recent data, we have also improved a lot in terms of accuracy, the way those market mixes are constructed. So for consequential, we are using specific market composition for 40 countries listed here in brackets, and those market composition are based on projections from the European Union and again the International Energy Agency. In that case, those projections are from 2016. So as you have seen, both the three system models benefit from more recent data and more coverage. But in the case of consequential, we have also an improvement in terms of accuracy and then usability of those markets in your modeling.
Emilia, I already have a question, if I can interrupt you.
Of course, of course.
Are there US average electricity mixes as well as regional mixes?
Yes. What do you mean? We have in the US, we have the grids. We have the different grids, and then we have a market group for US. So you will be able to use the market group for your national, at a national level, let's say, or you can use the different grids if you need to specifically locate your production in a region which uses a grid.
Okay, I think that answers the question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. So another level of improvement in the electricity sector concerns India. India as a country has been split into states, into the 29 states. So we are now able to model electricity production at the state level. And that means that we can now deliver data concerning electricity production in India at 3 different levels of detail. So you can choose the one that you prefer. And that means that we deliver electricity production in the 29 states, detailing the different technologies. That concerns around 160 datasets. Those datasets are then feeding the 5 national power grids. So you can decide to use in your project a specific power grid, for example. And those 5 grids are connected and supplying India as a market group. So you can choose what is the level of detail that you want to go, and then you can find it all 3 in the Ecoinvent database version 3.4. We can maybe move on to another sector that has been updated, and this is the chemical sector. This update is mainly a transposition of the work we have done in the framework of the PEF initiative. We have delivered for the European Commission chemical data for the PEF database, and we have then transposed those results into version 3.4. So that means that we have added around 50 new chemical products and updated around 120 products already existing in the database. I just listed here a few that are sometimes asked about by our users, like enzymes or glucose or salicylic acid, but there are more, up to 50 new. And another very exciting addition is concerns plastic recycling. We have added new data on plastics recycling. These, of course, help improving the coverage of recycling activities that we do in the database. That addition concerns more than 50 new activities located in Europe, US, and Switzerland, and they cover sorting and recycling activities of post-consumer PET and PE packaging materials. In the case of PET and PE, this recycling goes all the way to secondary granulates. In the case of PE, we also model recovery into light fuel oil by thermal depolymerization. This is about the data that has been added in the version 3.4. Just a short note on what's coming in the version 3.5. We are keeping up this path of 1 release per year. And the release of version 3.5 is scheduled to our users for summer 2018. And soon, during the springtime, we will circulate among our users a newsletter where we will detail the content of this new release in terms of data and additions to the database. And if there is no more questions in this part, I will jump to the next, to the guided tour.
There was a question, or maybe a tip. It was related to the electricity data sets, and there was a question. You know how you showed the map with India. Is there perhaps a map that shows all the countries covered by electricity data sets?
Yes, actually, there is. I don't have it here now in a slide to show, but we have it. It's soon downloadable from our frequently asked questions, because we prepared it as an answer in general to our users, and also from the report on the electricity additions that we have made for 3.4. But yeah, there are two maps of the world, one in the attributional situation and the other in the consequential. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And another question is if the plastic data sets are kind of in system process mode, because there were some processes.
No, those are not. The plastics recycling are available as unit and system for the SimaPro terminology, and unit processes and LCI for us. Yeah, but you can see them as unit processes. Yes, okay. This is nothing. Yeah, it's not aggregated. I mean, it is, but it's also as unit process.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's start this guide tour to our functionalities, and let's start with the web page. The first part of the web page I would like to attract your attention to is here on the database, when it's referring to Ecoinvent version 3.4, so the latest released version of the database. If you dive in, you will arrive to a section that it's called Report of Changes. And in report under this report of changes, you will find documentation concerning every single update, correction, or change we have done from version 3.3 to version 3.4. Everything is here. You can download, for example, a PDF report called the Report of Changes that looks like this, and it's documented all changes implemented from the previous version 3.3 to the current version 3.4. If you just look quickly at the table of contents, you can see that it concerns all sectors I have been talking about just now, where we have added data, but it also talks, this document, it will also talk about database-wide changes, like changes on price or changes on the impact assessment are also mentioned here. And it will also report updates in remaining sectors, small corrections, smaller changes. This report of changes can be used together with an Excel file, which is called the Report of Changes Excel, which is giving you every single flow in every single activity in the database, and you can track how amounts or even flows have changed between versions. And complementary to those files, we also publish the correspondence file, which is an Excel file that you can download from here, which is the key that you need to use when you're adapting your project from version 3.3 to version 3.4, or in general from one version to the next. And I would like to describe this file a little bit more in detail. I think it's also the file that SimaPro uses for their mapping, but maybe you also would like to use it manually for some corresponding that you need to do yourself. So what do we find here? It's a quite complex file, of course, because it's mapping the whole database into different moments in time. So you will find here information regarding activity name, product name, geography of the process, time period, and other informations in version 3.3 and in version 3.2. And those two informations are going to be matched in this file. All the information here, it's telling you about how this matching is being done. It's giving you statistics on how is this a direct match or it's not, and it's always giving you an explanation on how the match is being done and why. So it will tell you, most likely you will find 3 cases. You will find a direct match, so activity existing in 3.3 is now matching an activity in 3.4, nothing to say. You might find a new activity that it's now existing in 3.4 and was not existing in 3.3 before. So obviously this is not rarely a possibility to match an activity when it's totally new. Or it will explain you how a replacement has to happen. And when is that we would need a replacement? Well, we would need a replacement when an activity which was existing in 3.3 might have been, for example, disaggregated in terms of technologies. Let's imagine we had an average technology in version 3.3 and now we have specific technologies in version 3.4. Or when we have had a geography split, like in India, what I was describing just before. The Indian electricity is now given as per state. It's important to remember that we will always propose a replacement, and I'm going to give an example on the Indian electricity. And when we don't propose a replacement, which will be, as you can see, will be detailed here in this column. This will give you the amount of the replacement that you need to use when you're replacing a version 3.3 activity via a version 3.4 activity. As I was saying, if we don't propose a replacement, it's normally because the concerned activity was corrected. So we consider it's not correct anymore, it's wrong, or it's very obsolete, and we rather advise not to use it. Just quickly, I will describe you the example on using Indian electricity as an example. And here you can see electricity production hard code in India in version 3.3, which is now matching several activities in version 3.4, each of them located in one Indian state. So if we read the comment it's explaining you that the geographical split has occurred and that the states producing electricity with this technology, with hard coal in that case, are contributing with the respective shares to add up to 1 in order to substitute the original electricity production hard coal in India. So you will have to replace one activity by 15 in that case with the given shares in the file, or just select maybe one state because it was the state where your activity was occurring, or go to a higher level and use simply the market group and don't detail technologies anymore.
Sorry, if you can go back.
Yes, I can, of course.
So there was a question if the activity ID is kind of like a unique identifier
Yes.
for each data set. And
Yes.
the question maybe from the SimaPro side, I don't know, Paula, if you can answer, if this number is visible in the process in SimaPro?
Yeah, it should be in the comments in SimaPro, and also with the link to the documentation, which I will show in the demo, you can also find it there.
Okay, great. There was also a question if uncertainty for processes was also updated?
The uncertainty, well, when we have updated all activities that were updated had the flows updated, they have maybe updated uncertainties, but we have not done a major update in uncertainty whatsoever. I don't know if the question can be more precise or if we should discuss this.
I think it's okay for now. We'll see if it comes up again in the later. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. You're welcome. Okay, so then let's just start the final part of my presentation, and I would like to show you how to enter the EcoQuery. The EcoQuery, as I was saying, is the interface to our database through our web page. When you are in our web page, you log in to the database, Ecoinvent database like this. You have access to the current released version, but also to all older versions. 3.3, 3.2, up to 2.2. Everything that you have had access to once you remain, you are granted access still today. So once you have logged in, what you can find interesting in the EcoQuery? Well, you have a report section, and here you can find and download all reports concerning transversal aspects of sectors. Those are typically the sectorial reports that we have been slowly writing and publishing for version 3. They are reports, we have reports on agriculture, electricity, and we are adding now with 3.4 reports on natural gas, the plastics recycling and chemicals and so on. you can find here in the files section, you can find the LCA and LCIA matrices. You can also download the full database, and you can find supporting information for LCIA method implementation if you need so. And finally, you can go here to the database search and still keep on finding some interesting things. So if you use the database search, you can search by product or activity name. You can use both criteria, and you can decide which system model is the one that you would like to navigate through. And I would like to highlight that by doing so and following the path that I just described, you can have access to the undefined database. To the undefined database, you can have access not only as license holder, as licensee, but also as guest. We guarantee the access to the undefined database also to guests. And here, you can have access to the multi-output unallocated unit processes that represent the activity modeled. This is the model of the activity more following the physical logic of the process. This is accessible here, as it was also the case for version 2. Version 2 also offered the multi-output unit processes to be downloaded from the EcoQuery at the time. We do the same here, and they are also for guests. When you are in the undefined database, you can also have access and download the associated PDF reports to each activity, which I will just detail just in 2 slides. Also, if you're here, you can have access not only to undefined, but of course to the 3 calculated system models. And in that case, you have access to the linked, allocated, or substituted single output unit processes, and then of course to LCI and LCIA. And as well, you can download a PDF report. What is this PDF report? PDF reports are these downloadable reports that we generate per dataset, and they give you access to all the information that is in the dataset. So you have the general comment with images and tables and the source of the data, the technology field with also if it has schemes and tables, and also the full inventory with, for example, properties which are not supported by any LCA software. You can find information on properties here. And each flow will have also common source information, and also a small, here I want to highlight, each flow will have the relative contribution of the flow to total scores using some selected methods. You can download the PDF reports from EcoQuery, as we have seen, but also directly from SimaPro, as I believe in the demo will be shown very, very nicely. And with that, that's all on my side. I'm happy if I take more questions now or later.
Thank you so much, Emilia. I think we'll leave the questions to the end. I'll pass it on now to Paula, who will walk us through the updates from the SimaPro side. Oh.
And you can see my screen okay, Ruba?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's show you some of the changes in SimaPro now. So we went over what was new in Ecoinvent. So what else is new in SimaPro 8.5? There's just a few small changes to the software, like Ruba mentioned. It's
sorry, Paul. I think we see the presenter mode. I don't know if that was your intention.
Showing the wrong screen. Is that?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
So the opposite one. So yeah, as Ruba mentioned, it was mostly a database update, but so these are a few small fixes in the software. First, the position of the legend in the charts, the network, and the tree can now be changed by dragging and dropping. while calculating the progress window shows the switches exclude infrastructure processes and exclude long-term emissions. Right underneath, you can see in the screenshot below. And then last, there's a small bug fix that when using groups, now the colors in the chart match those also in the legend. So from a database side of things, for methods, the main changes are related to the correction of characterization factors of fuel flows, which in some cases were based on either higher heating values in methods which should have been using lower heating values and vice versa. So now that's specified in the comment of the flows and also within the method. So we had some updates in CML, the EPD method, and the energy demand method. There were also some corrections in recipe 2016. It can now be found in a global category. And it still does not include normalization and weighting, since we're still waiting for that from the method developers. So as soon as we get that from them, we'll be able to update and add that in SimaPro as well. And you can find more details about specifically which flows have been updated in both the comment sections of the methods themselves, as well as the document what's new in SimaPro 8.5. Regarding data libraries, we had an update to agri-footprint, and that includes now 250 new unit processes related to U.S. field crop production. So the new data is from the U.S. Department of Agriculture LCA Commons and includes processes such as cottonseed, groundnuts, maize, oats, rice, soybeans, among others. And I believe that's also specified by state. In the industry data library now includes data from the World Steel Association, and this includes 46 system level data sets that are both worldwide and regional averages for several different kinds of steel. The ERASM data is also added to the industry data library, and this includes 37 system level LCI data sets from the European detergents and surfactants industry. So that includes data for production of the surfactants and main precursors. The ELCD data was also updated. 500 or so processes were updated. Those were updated to the ELCD node, which then we also updated in SimaPro. And then, of course, we updated to Ecoinvent 3.4, which you guys already heard the overview of what's new there. So there are also some additional changes in the SimaPro software in this release related to the Ecoinvent update specifically. The default and recycled content libraries were renamed so that now they are consistent with the names you see published by Ecoinvent. So it's more consistent between the two now. So the Ecoinvent allocation default is now updated to Ecoinvent allocation at the point of substitution. And the recycled content library is now called cutoff by classification. So the way this will work is that first, when you update the software, there will be a technical conversion of the database, which renames the name of the library. And then after you update your database and you import, the process extension names will change to APOS, U or S, and then cutoff, U or S. And then the last thing is that the links to the Ecoinvent documentation, which I'll show you during the demo, are now available in the system library. Before they were just, the links were only in the unit library, and now they're in both places. And then for replacing obsolete processes, again, this is something that we get a few questions about, and we're hoping to clear this up a little bit with the demo as well. But after your database update, most of the links will be replaced automatically. The ones that were mentioned as having a direct replacement, you don't have to worry about those. But there will be a few that might have become obsolete and are no longer supported. And for these, you can use the replacement files that we have provided, or you could also manually replace your processes. So I will show you in the demo how you can do this pretty simply. And that is the last slide. Let's see. So for the demo, I created a very simple process that doesn't really represent any real process. And for this release, I think only about between 40 and 50 processes total in each library became obsolete. So the chance of many obsolete processes is very low. I'm just created this as an example to show you how to handle this. So for this process, we have a banana, fatty acid, electricity, and heat as the inputs. And you'll see if we run a calculation here on this process, we will get a message, which you may have seen before, about that several of these are obsolete, which I will just show you quickly in case you're not familiar. So you get this warning, this process is tagged as obsolete, try replacing it by another up-to-date process. And if you scroll over, you can see that the banana, the electricity, and the fatty acid process are all obsolete. So to solve this, you go up to Tools and the Project to Library Links Manager. And you come here and press Scan. And what this does is it finds every process in with a link to a library in your project. So my project, I only have that one process. If you do this in one of your projects, you'll probably have a very long list here of all the links. And so then what you do is you go to Import Replacements. And when SimaPro installs, wherever you choose to have your SimaPro installed, it will install these files, which the default is this public folder. And you can select the replace library, and this replacement file will support you if you're replacing from 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. So they're all in the same file. If you're still using Ecoinvent 2.2, you'll probably have to replace to 3.3 first with those replacement files, and then do a replacement again, because we stopped supporting replacements from 2.2 with this release. So you click this, and it will import, and it will look up where there's a match. So these are one-to-one replacements. You don't have to worry about those, but if you remember when we did the calculation, there was one more, which is a fatty acid, and that doesn't have a replacement here. So what we did is we used that correspondence file to create a simpler version for processes that do not have direct replacements in the replacement files we created, and you can replace these manually yourself. And if you want to see why, you can download this document from our website, which has a list of obsolete processes without replacement. And you can see fatty acid production from vegetable oil was split into fatty acid production from 4 different feedstocks. So if you want to replace it manually, you can just click on this box, and you can see now that these are the 4 feedstocks, and let's say palm oil. And this was not one of the obsolete processes. So again, for ones that are not obsolete, these will all be blank. And then you just come down here on the bottom and click replace. And do you want to replace the product in 3 out of 4 links? You say yes. And that's all you have to do to do the replacement. And now if we open this process, these will automatically be the new, so you can see fatty acid from palm oil. These are the replaced links. So that is how to replace processes from obsolete. And the other thing I wanted to show you in this demo was how to get to the PDF documentation. And I'm just going to.
Before you get to that, Paula, I would just like to point out what you had shown, for example, with the manual replacement. If the same process is being used in multiple processes in the same project, they will all be updated. You don't have to do it one by one.
Right.
And there was another question if what you're showing at the moment is documented somewhere. And I'd like to point out, yes, so in the update manuals, this replacement procedure is documented. And we also have a film showing it as well. And that's available on the SimaPro Help Center. And also we link to it from the update manual. So be sure to check the update manual first. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so for the PDF documentation, you can just choose any of these processes and go to this documentation tab. And here where it says external links, you can just right click and say open document. And this open up. Oh, I have to log in. You'll have to log in, and then you will be able to download. Here's the PDF documentation, and like it was described before, this is just a more direct way to get to this PDF file than going. You can also go through the Ecoinvent website. It'll be the same in either place. And that again is in documents, external links, and that's in both the unit and the system libraries now. And that is all I have for the demo. If there's any other questions about this, I'm happy to answer them or turn it back to Ruba, and we can go over any other questions broadly to anybody.
Thanks, Paula. There was a question again about the replacement process, if that has to be done per model, let's say, or can you select multiple projects at one time?
So that will be in each project individually, but it'll replace every link in that project. So if you have a lot of models in the same project, then it'll replace them all at once. But if you will have to go into each project individually.
Yeah. And there was a question going back to the process, the activity ID, let's say, from Ecoinvent documentation, if it's possible to show it in the documentation tab since you're there.
Oh, right, of course. So I believe it should be in the comment, which is easier to see down here. I think it's included in the name, but let's see if it's. I assume it's also on this documentation, but I'm not sure where. Feel free to jump in.
Is it mentioned in the PDF documentation, Emilia?
Sorry, yeah, the UID.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
the UID. I would assume not, unless it's on the because this is meant more to understand what is modeled, and I would assume that if it's present the UID, it's in the undefined version, but I would assume that not, but I would also need to check.
Okay, sorry, yeah, perhaps not.
And there was another question if it's possible in SimaPro to modify the graphs that generated by the chart in terms of like colors, etc., without having to export it to Excel. So I know with Excel you have much more possibilities, but it is indeed possible to change some chart settings like colors and font size and axis information and that kind of stuff if you go to the chart settings in SimaPro. Another question, I think that's more to you, Emilia, if you could briefly capture the difference between I don't know if that's possible, but between the APOS and the cutoff libraries in Ecoinvent.
If I can explain what is the difference between system models, cutoff, and APOS?
Yes.
Shortly, this is you're asking me too much here. But no, I mean, what I can say is what we normally advise users, just a fast question. If you are happy with the cutoff approach that you were using, for example, in version 2.2, then keep on using what we call cutoff system model. This uses the same approach as in version 2.2. You will see consistency in the results as you will see results as you are used to see them. If you are more interested in waste treatment or recycling activities and you really want to attribute burdens on waste treatment both to producers and then the ones that treat it, then maybe you can use APOS. You can explore APOS also and just to do some sensitivity analysis and maybe compare some scenarios using cutoff and APOS, and then you can judge yourself if this is on the scope of your project, if this is what you need or not. We have on our webpage, we have links to recorded webinars, and we have recorded webinars on the system models, explaining what each system model does and what are the modeling choices behind each system model and more or less when to use them. So don't hesitate to go and check.
Yeah, I also want to jump back in and say, if you scroll to the bottom of your of the comment tab, you can see the source number or the bottom of the comments in SimaPro itself.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry.
So I have a few other questions. One is a more general one, and if there's a limit on the size of the database for updating SimaPro software. There's, as far as I know, no limits. It just can, the larger the database, the longer time it can take. But at the moment, there is no limitation. And another question, I think it's for you, Emilia, when you showed some of the results, the LCIA results in the Ecoinvent documentation. The question was if on which methods or how has it been, how have the results been attained?
Yeah, they are. The results are calculated using some selected methods, just considered to be the most relevant in that case, or the most used, I would say. Normally, we use. I'm trying to now talk from the top of my head, but we will use IPCC and maybe. Recipe, I don't know by heart. I'm trying to open the PDF now, and then we will show using the contributions in the different methods as per flow. Yeah, but the methods are also named in the PDF, so you can check what methods are being used, of course. Else, and it's based on the implementation Ecoinvent does of the methods. Yes, also.
Okay, great. Thank you. And another question in the data is, are there databases showing the electricity production for peak loads in different countries?
No, electricity production is modeled as per technology. And then considering an annual perspective. So we will record production volumes in the year, in a given technology, in a given geography. That's how we will model electricity production. So yeah, here I can see the impact contribution. So it's IPCC, Eco-Scarcity 2013, and Recipe.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well, we've captured a lot of information, ranging from Ecoinvent to SimaPro. I don't know if there are any other questions at the moment. Like I mentioned previously, we will have a recording available on the SimaPro Help Center. We have had 2 sessions for this webinar, so one of them will be available, not both. So we'll keep you updated on that. And if you have any questions that pop up later, please, feel free to email us, support@PRé-sustainability.com. And I'm not sure if there are any other questions before we end the session. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you enjoy the latest updates and the latest data. And always looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Emilia. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.